in the morning slot, we had a bouncer. So the VARC section that came in had extra questions than the usual past year situation. So that threw me a little off guard. When I came to DILR, I again saw that they'd switched up from the 6-4, 6-4 pattern to the 5 question per set pattern. So I took 3 minutes selecting the right set, and I was able to solve the first set within the first 7 minutes. So in 10 minutes, I had one set done. And I felt very happy about it because I felt I'm now in a very comfortable position, which was a mistake because I got complacent. So my worst interview experience was actually the XLRI interview. One of the professors even asked me, "I just do not like you in my class, what will you do?" So, hi, I'm Vedika. I'm from Mumbai. I did my bachelor's from IIM Indore. There's a program called IPM, which is a 5-year integrated program. So I spent 3 years there. I'm a fresher, and currently I'm pursuing MBA at IIM Bangalore. So, firstly, I was in such a program where I would have continuously gone for an MBA after my graduation. It was decided, like when I joined IPM after my 12th grade, I had mentally decided that I would continuously finish all my studies. So for me, because I was a part of the IPM program, I had mentally decided after my 12th grade only that I would continuously finish all my education within the stretch of 5 years. For me, going for WorkX, I had definitely contemplated that as a viable option. But I had started a startup in my first year of undergrad. So I felt like I had gotten a lot of hands-on experience throughout the 3 years that I had spent there. And alongside that, for the first year at IIM Indore, I had also worked for a US firm side by side along with my studies. So I felt that at that point in time, MBA was the right thing. Like I needed some formal education before I move out into the working environment. So to start off with my entire prep, the very first thing I did was give a mock. Some people maybe advise against this. This is my advice to all aspirants, that the very first thing you do is give a mock. So I gave a mock and I saw where I was standing. And the first mock I did decently well. I realized that now it's something that is doable, it's not unattainable. So the very first few things I did was Arun Sharma for quants. So I solved the LOD 2 questions. I had done level of difficulty 1 for my IPMAT entrance prep in 12th grade. So I picked up LOD 2, and because I was short of time throughout this entire process, like the 6 months that I prepared for CAT, I was short of time because I was a part of the education curriculum going on at IIM Indore. I optimized time a lot. Like I would not solve all questions. I used to skim through. I had also realized that I was very strong at verbal, but quads and DILR were something that I really needed to work on. So for DILR, I did sectionals. I had also set a target of 30 mocks up till the exam. So I roughly finished around 35 before I gave CAT. The last 2 months was when I actually caught up. So the last 2 months, I used to do a mock every alternate day, it would not always pan out that way because I also had exams going on in the middle and my classes as well. We also had a group of people, so I was surrounded by an ecosystem of people who were preparing for CAT. So we would discuss, different strategies to attempt the paper. My roommate and I also had this tradition that we used to compete on a Sudoku online before we started the CAT paper. Also, there was heavy analysis as well. Resources that I would suggest for CAT, if you are short of time especially, you can look at Krakow videos that are compiled. Like that helped me a lot. For DLR, I particularly did not spend time reading up through some material or any online coaching. I just went through the 2-hour compiled crash course videos. Same with quants, I would recommend them. For verbal, I would suggest that you do past year CAT papers. That's what I did. I did past year CAT RCs specifically. So this was majorly my preparation. In the last 2 months, when I got my hall ticket, I realized it's a morning slot. I'm not a morning person. Like the worst that I can perform is in a morning mock, which really alarmed me. So what I did was I switched my entire sleep schedule and I started giving mocks in the same time that the CAT was scheduled. And I also realized that sometimes I was getting very exhausted by the end of a mock. I even tried to do one sectional and one mock together. I even tried combinations of doing 2 mocks together. So these are some things that I did in the last 2 months. So on the day of the exam, I woke up, I was very nervous. I also went through certain basic formulas, like I had made a cheat sheet before the exam. So I just went through that, took me 15-20 minutes roughly. The previous day I would say don't take too much load. I actually feel that I messed up my DILR section and I could have done much better, and I felt that during the paper as well. Before the paper I was very nervous about that particular section. I knew that was my weak point, and I had set in my mind that I have to do 2 sets accurately, and 2.5 sets accurately would be, a very good, like 99 plus easily. That was what I had in mind, and what happened was, in the morning slot we had a bouncer, so the VARC section that came in had extra questions than the usual past year situation. So that threw me a little off guard, but it was still fine because VARC was my strong suit. When I came to DILR, I again saw that they'd switched up from the 6-4-6-4 pattern to the 5 question per set pattern. So if you notice, if you compare the last 2 years papers, you can see the difference. That again threw me a little off guard, but I thought that I'll just spend some time in selecting the right sets. So I took 3 minutes selecting the right set, and I was able to solve the first set within the first 7 minutes. So in 10 minutes I had 1 set done, and I felt very happy about it because I felt I'm now in a very comfortable position, which was a mistake because I got complacent. 25 minutes went in trying to solve the second set, which also was not accurate. Like I kept making silly mistakes during the set preparation, and I had to go back and revise my entire path. And then there were only 5 minutes left, which is when I panicked and I realized that if I don't finish these 2, I might not be able to get the desired percentile. And in the last 3 minutes, I changed 2 questions. Like I changed 2 questions from the answer that I had decided based on a whim. And they were actually correct earlier. So I messed them up, and I feel like had I not messed them up, I would have probably gotten more calls and a better, like I would have switched from a 99.18 to a 99.7 percentile, which is a big difference. So that was there roughly D-Day. And QA was fine. It was again something I was comfortable with. I solved 18 questions, of which I think 13 were correct. So that was fine. I got calls from Bangalore, Lucknow, Calcutta, Kozhikode, Indore. These were the IIMs that I had filled for. And XLRI call was something that I had. FMS as well. So my worst interview experience was actually the XLRI interview. It was an online interview, surprisingly, and the interview started off only on not a good start. They asked me questions on the city, and I was not very prepared for it. And they also asked me my CAT percentile, post which they said that they're very convinced that you would be going for an IIM of the ranks of B and C. So why would you come to us? So there was a lot of back and forth going on there. I tried to convince them, but it did not seem to come through. One of the professors even asked me, I just do not like you in my class, what will you do? So I said that, sir, considering you're a professor of such a reputed institute, I would expect you to not treat me differently even though you do not like me. So he said that how can the onus always be on us as professors? So there was a lot of back and forth going on there as well. And then they asked me my favorite subject. So I said it's economics. So they asked me questions in microeconomics. And there also I felt like they were not very convinced with my answers. It was also too early, like it was my second interview, I think. I was not very prepared with academic questions. So that was my worst interview experience. And my best interview experience was obviously IIM Bangalore. So I was very comfortable that day. It was my second last interview, and somehow I felt like this is something I'm going to ace. So in my head, I had decided acads is my weak part, but my startup is my strong part. It's something that I can take any question on. So I just have to ensure that we bring the conversation to that. And luckily, that is what had happened. When the interview started, they asked me to introduce myself, and I had prepared my intro in a way that the very last thing that I would mention would be my startup uni voyage. So they immediately caught on that and they said, "Oh, you have a startup, tell us more." And that interview was 45 minutes long. There was a lot of back and forth. I was able to answer everything because obviously I know my company from start to end. And there was no academic question as such that, oh, who invented this, or, who started this, or what year. So it was mostly just based on my profile. They also asked me, I was also able to highlight certain parts of my profile apart from this. So some advice that my seniors had given me was that this is too on the nose. It seems like you do not have any other personality apart from this. I was able to also bring that up because I had mentioned in my SOP about my previous internships, my hobbies. So they were able to pick on that as well. They even asked me about my academics. And fortunately, I was doing very well at IIM Indore academically in the last 3 terms. So I even brought that up, that along with my startup, I'm able to, academically do well. So all in all, it was a good interview. They were also smiling. I also cracked some jokes during the interview. They laughed. When I entered, they'd asked me that, how is the atmosphere outside? So I said that people are trying to predict what you are going to ask. So the interviewer said that, so have you been able to crack it? So I said, no, you guys are doing a good job. No one has been able to crack it till now. So it was a fun, light-hearted conversation. And I came out with a smile on my face thinking that if I don't get selected, it will be because of my percentile and not my interview or my past records. For those of you who are taking the exam in a very short span of time, like CAT is just right around the corner, I would say that now is not the time to panic. Nerves can really spoil your attempt, and the attempt can be a game changer. Like I have seen people who have had minimal prep get 99.5+%. Not that I am recommending minimal prep, but I have seen that as well, and I've seen people with excessive prep who are not able to clear because of nerves. So that is something that you really need to get sorted. If you're an anxious person, find ways to calm down. I personally am an anxious person, and I definitely feel I could have done better had I been more calmer during the paper. So I would suggest that you find your source. I used to meditate a little before the paper. Also try to accustom yourself to the environment. So what I used to do was give mocks in the morning, do it in noisy areas so that, in case the center is bad. And be mentally prepared, anything can happen. The night before my CAT exam, we got a message that the center had changed. I was asleep. Luckily, I had given my credentials to a senior who is close to me. So the senior saw the notification and he called me up, woke me up, and we were able to reschedule like the transport settings to the exam hall. Anything can happen, just be mentally prepared. Also, it's not the end of the world, like you have more attempts. In my case, I unfortunately did not have any more attempt, as in it was destined that ye nahi hua to fir have to continue in IIM Indore. But in your case, you will most likely have more attempts. So you can relax and just give this with a clear mind and be confident in your prep. I think that will help.